Welcome to One Old Man's Opinion. I'm the old man. This episode 23, 24, 24. Why me? Yeah, this is episode 24. Welcome to episode 24 of One Old Man's Opinion. I'm the old man. I usually don't put one of these things out this quickly, but the subject is hot, and that is the United States and Israel attacking Iran. There was a rumor, don't know where it came from, somewhere in the administration, that Iran had intended to have to launch a preemptive strike against U.S. forces in the Middle East and their other people that they considered to be enemies because they were cooperating with us, several other little countries, including Saudi Arabia and Israel, and etc. So since we were planning to do something to them anyway, we beat them to the punch. It was a surprise for a couple of reasons. For one, we did it in daylight. Usually our operations like that happen in the middle of the night. So they really weren't expecting us for that. Also, we usually do those things on a new moon when there's not much light at night. And that next one of those would have been March the 19th. And so we really... What amazes me is that they were able to be that ready that quickly. I know they'd been planning that they might have to do this for a long time, but to get ready and go on such short notice. Now, of course, that rumor might be bogus, but that's what I heard. At any rate, they took out the air defenses, missile production, nuclear facilities, and they killed a bunch of important people, especially Al Khamenei. The IRGC command, that's the Iranian Revolutionary Guard Corps. Those are the better trained, better equipped, more loyal troops. There's another batch of them that are kind of like active reservists, and their job is mostly to keep order in the streets. They're not really war fighters. They also took out a big chunk of the diplomatic corps, as if that mattered, because Iran has never been much for diplomacy. And the inner circle around Al Khamenei. As soon as the attacks began, Al Khamenei called a bunch of his people together, and they were having a meeting. And guess what? We knew where to hit them. I think Al Khamenei wasn't thinking. Is what I was thinking. They should have met in an unusual place. Instead, they met in one of their regular meeting spots, and we got them, or the Israelis got them. The citizens of Iran have been responding positively, very positively. They're including things like dancing in the streets and setting off fireworks. Exiled Persians in London got together with a bunch of Israelis, and they were waving, Persian flags and Iranian flags and dancing together. By the way, Persia, or Iran, is the renaming of Persia, and in my opinion it probably ought to go back to being called Persia, but whatever. Reaction in Congress? Mixed. A lot of people who spend their time looking for excuses to be cranky about President Trump are against it. Very few of them are actually against it on principle, but there probably are a couple. Countries neighboring Iran were mostly irritated because when Iran started to fire back, they ended up shooting things in neighboring countries, including in civilian areas, and they kind of their accuracy wasn't very good, I'll put it that way. The responses in Europe are mostly negative. Wussies. People in Europe who don't believe in defending themselves. They want to sit around and play with their welfare state until Iran gets a nuclear weapon and then wipes them all out. That's basically what they want to do. Some of the influential people that I follow, Peter Zion, Tucker Carlson, Megyn Kelly, Mark Levin, varying positions. Peter Zion says taking out the top circle of Khamenei's government is not going to be all that effective, because there are like 10,000 members of the political class, all of them being mullahs. Even a couple hundred of them are make up what's known as the legislature, and then you can wipe them all out, and they'd still have plenty of mullahs to run things. So we'll see about that. This would be the proper time for there to be an uprising, where the Iranian people pour into the streets and throw out the bombs, which may happen because we've been trying to encourage that. We'll see. Tucker Carlson, well, I think Tucker's gone off the rails. Poor guy. I think he's been compromised, frankly. He keeps saying things that sound awful sympathetic to the Russian positions on pretty darn near anything lately. He said this is all about helping Israel be the boss in the Middle East, be the hegemon in the Middle East, where they can overly influence, dictate to the neighbors. Megyn Kelly was pretty well grounded. She's reminded us that Iran is the source of years and years and years of terrorist organizations, Hamas, Hezbollah, the Houthis, and it's good to see them come apart or be taken apart. She said Iran has been killing Americans for whatever it is, 40 years or something like that, she said. For decades, I think that's the word she used. And they have, because they've been encouraging and financing and training terrorists to attack Americans all this time, even though they directly haven't done any of that stuff. But then that's, Mark Levin. Well, Mark Levin is sounding like he's being attacked a lot lately. He keeps going off about calling pretty much everything that he doesn't completely agree with as being anti-Semitic. And he said something about that if we didn't take out Israel, that they have a nuclear weapon mounted on an ICBM and they could, hit us with it, which is not true. Don't know where he's getting his information. Somebody lied to him, and he needs to check that out. So, sorry, Mark. Anyway, it was like that. Everybody had their own thing they wanted to emphasize. Sometimes it was spun up, sometimes not. My opinion, was it justified? Yeah, it was justified. I don't think we had a choice. Various administrations have been kicking this thing down the can now for 30, 40 years. It was the point where either somebody did something about it or the Iranians would kill 100,000 people with a bomb. they're nutcases, and I don't mean the Iranian people. That they have come to the realization, the people have come to the realization that Khomeini and his crew are wah-wah, okay, out of it. And they have, but there's nothing they can do about it. The bad guys have all the guns, so hopefully this will break the back of the bad guys, and we can get some peacefully, oriented folk. Now, it's been said that this might lead us into World War III. I don't buy that. In order to have World War III, you have to have a lot of players. And Iran basically has no allies. Even the Russians, when they realized what we were doing, just sort of like said, now, you need to back off a little and cool it, blah, 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 instead of doing one of their usual, go into low Earth orbit responses. The same thing with the Chinese. They've said almost nothing about it. So Iran has no allies, none at all in the Middle East, and their two biggest partners in the world, the Russians and the Chinese, are backing away. They don't want to play. So it's not going to be World War III. So the old man's opinion is probably was the right thing to do. Can't be absolutely sure, but I think so. Now, biblically speaking, yeah, wars and rumors of wars. But this one isn't going to last long enough, I don't think, to be part of prophecy. That's one old man's opinion. Travel with God. Like, subscribe, and share. We got to keep that algorithm warmed up.